do that thing, that one thing you know that you've been procrastinating. And I know some of you guys listening to this right now, you probably just had a thought show up in your subconscious and it probably haunted you for a second and you probably pushed it down. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm really in the mood to film a podcast. And I just know it always hits when I'm like really in sync with the episode and just like the topic. And so you guys are about to get a good one. All right, basically this is how to make life suck less. And I specifically say make life suck less because I think there's just like two groups right now on YouTube or in social media in general. There's like two extremes, the romantics and the messy aesthetic. And the romantics are always like how to romanticize your life. And this is really no hate. I'm just commenting on the fact that this is the case. There's a side that wants to romanticize everything. If you make your meals look beautiful and Instagram worthy, then your life will be infinitely better. Something like that. And then you have the messy aesthetic who just embraces that life is a mess, that most days you're going to wake up not wanting to do anything. So just stay in your bed. Don't clean up your room. Just keep it a mess because life's short and life's hard and it's okay. Like that's the other extreme. But there's a middle that I feel is more realistic for majority of people living the typical life where, life has its highs and lows. Sometimes it's things you can't control. Literally, it could be your hormones for that week, for that month, for that year. Or maybe you just are having, some bad luck. It's just like things aren't really going well. And there's no reason to make it any worse by accepting like, life's messy, so I'm just going to be really messy or really romanticizing it. They are pretty extreme. And so there's a middle where when shit happens, when shit hits the fan, it's fine. Like, let's just deal with it. And if we are prepared enough and acknowledge that life can be sucky, we can admit that right now it's not the best, but it's not forever. It's temporary and it's going to get better. These are some things that I legit practice that have legit helped me to get through those sucky moments so that I can still be here for the good times. All right. Calling somebody when it really sucks. I have a group of 5 to 6 people that I hold near and dear to me, like literally on speed dial. Like they are on my favorites on my phone app. I will call them. I will tell them. I'll show up to their door and I will yap and vent. And I say 5 to 6 people because not one person can really take on everyone's trauma, like somebody else's trauma, especially when, one person themselves has their own trauma to deal with. So that's why I recommend always having more than one. And if, one or two friends aren't free to listen to me yap or they're dealing with their own shit, I have a few other friends or family members that I can reach out to. And I stopped doing this at one point in my life. I'm going to go into more detail. I want to go into more detail about this at the end of the video after I go through this list because I just want to like get to the point right away. But when I stopped doing this, it really changed my life. So that is why I know this one really works. And I put it as my first one because it is actually probably the most effective out of this list. The second thing is don't rush. Like try your best to take your time whenever you can. Whenever you're rushing, whenever I'm rushing, whatever, I feel so frantic and frazzled for no reason. It feels like I'm racing against something external. Things feel very out of control when I feel frantic and I need to rush to get out the door. And so giving myself enough time to get ready, giving myself enough time to take a break, do anything really, makes me feel like I have a lot more control and that life is a lot more easygoing than everyone else likes to make it out to be. Okay, this one's a little bit weird, and maybe it's because I'm projecting. It's a little bit of a pet peeve. I don't like it when people like cover their mouths or like don't fully laugh. Like I can tell they rehearsed their laugh at some point in their life to make it like very perfect and pretty, which I acknowledge is an insecurity thing sometimes, or like maybe somebody made a comment about them at one point, which that's so rude. And it's not their fault. And it's really coming from a place of innocence, but it makes me really upset. It makes me sad. It makes me angry when people don't laugh fully. I think that is something you should do. It really adds up, like to be able to feel comfortable enough to fully express yourself is super important through laughter and happiness, excitement. If you just get super giddy and excited about something weird and strange, you should be able to. You shouldn't hold yourself back. And I'm also speaking from experience. I used to do this. I used to cover my mouth a lot because I was really insecure about the way I laugh. And honestly, the way I laugh is still the same. It's not the cutest laugh. I honestly sound like a hyena, like something dying sometimes, which is fine. And sometimes no noise comes out of my mouth and I'm just standing there like frozen in a smiley face, but nothing's actually coming out. It's just like a lot of air being like pushed out of my mouth and nose. If you don't allow yourself to laugh, it simultaneously sends a signal to your body indirectly that you're in a place, in an environment that isn't safe enough for you to be fully yourself. And when you feel like you don't belong, you aren't fully understood and accepted as your full true self, that can really make life suck. So in a way, being able to just let it go by letting yourself fully laugh and express, I think it's just a little bit freeing. And I just let myself do that now. I don't really care. Like, if you have a problem with the way I laugh, or if you find me less attractive, then you're shallow. So, yeah. Next is find something else. Find somebody else to worry about. Like, choose something. Choose a topic. Choose a cause. Choose a person to worry about. So, when they come to you with their problems or put extra attention into what's going on in their lives, like, basically just become really nosy and annoying and bother somebody or some group. You're able to look at someone else's problems from a much more objective standpoint than you are with your own problems. And I feel like it's easier to spiral. Like, it's significantly easier. It's most likely that you'll spiral because of yourself, because you're like thinking about so many things, and we're all slightly more self-centered than we're not. But looking into somebody else's life, into a different cause, will let you kind of step away from your own problems and make you feel like you're really needed in this world, because now you're tethered to somebody else, something else physical in this world. So it makes your life a little bit more important and valuable, and just overall less sucky because you're valued. And I think people in general, our true nature is to help other people. You can point out anything that anyone does in this world and tie it back to helping something, helping somebody. Even companies, like, even though they're all corrupt and crappy most of the time, they have a mission statement, and their mission statement is usually tied to helping somebody or something. They also cannot make money if they're not providing value for somebody or something. So another thing to do when life gets sucky is to physically remove yourself from the situation. If there's a problem happening in front of you, like there's something literally external, or you're having some kind of meltdown or breakdown in a physical location, physically remove yourself from the location, so you kind of trick your brain in a way into thinking you're one step away from the problem. Even though the problem might still be there, you're like physically removed. So, for example, if the problem is at work, get yourself the hell out of the building. If you've been working from home and the problem is work, get yourself out of your room. Get yourself out of your apartment, your house, whatever it is. Physically remove yourself. The next thing is to limit decision fatigue, and specifically I like to do this the night before because I'm already exhausted by the end of the day, and I choose to basically write down my to-do list for the next day, choose my outfit, just basically do things, plan things that I can prepare for my next day self, so that she doesn't have to waste energy first thing in the morning or throughout the day on things that aren't as significant. And so things like, what am I going to eat tomorrow? I don't want to worry about that on the day of. So the day before, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to eat. I'm going to prepare this for myself. And so I can use a lot more of my energy to relax, to think about more important things that matter to me, and I'm not meddling and like being really indecisive, especially because I think we're just so privileged now, or at least I'm in a place that's so privileged now where I have so many options. I can really do a lot with my money, with my time. And so because I can really go in so many directions, I'm really overwhelmed easily because I'm like, oh, how should I spend my break time? Should I read? Or I could watch a movie, or like maybe I could research on YouTube videos, or I could paint or tattoo. And then I'm like sitting there like, oh my God, there's so many things to do. And then I get stressed trying to decide what to do with my break for no reason when I really could have just taken the break and just decided on one thing. So just eliminating that decision fatigue helps so much and makes life way, way, way better. Okay, the next thing is to pick a subject. It could be really obscure. That's really fun to learn more about, to become more of an expert at. If that makes sense. I would just say that this is kind of just fun, like to be able to pull out of your pocket and just make light of a situation. This is making me think, like, why don't we just watch a lot more comedies? I feel like when you get yourself in a mood to laugh, I feel like that also makes life suck less. And also because what we consume influences the way we are. Like, we basically turn into what we consume, physically, actually what we eat, and also like mentally what we take in. But I feel like if you watch a lot of comedies, you would become a funnier person. And when you're a funnier person, you can make yourself laugh and you can make everyone else laugh. And laughter is like, not to be cheesy, but the best medicine. And if you're laughing more, life is definitely sucking less. And especially when life sucks, if you can make it really funny and like turn it into a joke, that is one of the best coping mechanisms ever. And you're much more happier because you're just able to turn it into a lighthearted situation. I don't know. I feel like that's another one. I'll add that just because it just came to my mind right now. And I feel like that is so valid. Okay, anyways, that's another one. That's a bonus one, even for myself. Another one that really helps, sleep is so, so huge. I feel like it's so underrated and people overlook it all the time because you're like, like I know since you're a child, like somebody told you to nap, somebody told you to sleep at a certain time, and like we want to be adults and be like, no, we can control our time to sleep. But if you actually sleep enough, if you actually, not just sleeping enough, if you get 8 hours of a day or like whatever number of hours you need to sleep, it's not enough. You need to be able to sleep and wake up around the exact same time every day consistently. Like, that's where the money is. That's really where you get the most worth. When I was in college, I used to sleep 7, that's such a lie. There were points in my life where I did sleep 7 to 8 hours like consistently, but it still didn't hit the same. Like, I still had problems sleeping, problems waking up. But when I actually sleep like the same time, and right now I'm sleeping 10 o'clock ish every night, and I wake up around 6 to 6:30 ish every morning, that is really where it makes a difference, because my body is ready to sleep because it knows it's going to sleep at this time. It also knows when to wake up naturally because I've been consistently doing it. And when I wake up, I feel really refreshed because my body knew what to expect. It knew that in this time frame, from this time to this time, this is how long I'm going to sleep. And so whatever it needs to do to recover, to get REM, whatever it is, it will do it in that time frame because it knows that's exactly what it's going to get. Changing it up and surprising yourself, trying to like fool yourself and like, I don't know what you're trying to do, play games with yourself, it's not helping anybody. The next thing is to do that thing, that one thing you know that you've been procrastinating. And I know some of you guys listening to this right now, you probably just had a thought show up in your subconscious and it probably haunted you for a second and you probably pushed it down. But that thing that just popped up in your brain right now that you know you need to do, but you've been kind of avoiding. And for me right now, I have a flight that I booked in the summertime and I need to change the flight because the dates are completely wrong and I've been procrastinating it, and it's been sitting in my brain and I completely just keep pushing it down. But I need to do that thing. The act of remembering and reminding yourself to do something holds up space in your brain. Like, it is a waste in your brain. It is such an annoyance, it's like a little sibling. It just is always there, like pecking at you and annoying you. And you don't need that. Get rid of it. Don't get rid of your sibling, but get rid of get rid of the annoying thing that you need to do. Just get it over with so that you can move on with your life and not have baggage that you're carrying. Finally, change your point of view, change your perspective. This kind of sounds shallow, but it's true. Like, basically, put yourself in a situation where you will realize that your state of life is a lot more fortunate. So basically, go put yourself in a situation where you see other people, you're exposed to other people, or a situation where it isn't as fortunate as where you are. So yeah, it is really kind of messed up. But like, if you can go volunteer, oh God, it is really kind of messed up. But it is true. It does really give you perspective where you just become really grateful for what you have when you realize that some people don't get certain things in their life as easily, whether it is laundry dryer in their building, a roof over their head, period, or to be able to eat really fancy food. Being able to expose yourself to not as fortunate of a life can give you a lot of perspective. I realized that one's kind of messed up, and I'm acknowledging it, but I'm just going to say it anyways because it is true. It would help to make your life seem less sucky. Even if you don't do anything from this list, if you think it's crappy, if you have your own version of ways to make your life suck less, but you're not doing enough, you should just do those things. Like, you don't have to follow my list. I think in general, if you just put energy just to try to make yourself a little bit happier, to make things suck a little bit less, innately, you'll find your life more valuable. This is totally part of the human complex where we just put and see more value in things that we put more time and effort in. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. We feel like we deserve more because we put in all this effort. We worked really hard. Like, that is not very correct way of looking at life. But in this way, it really helps, because if you just put in effort to make your life suck less, then you innately will think, oh, my life must be worth it enough for me to put time into it to make it better. At the end of the day, even putting in a little bit of effort will make a difference. But yeah, so these are things that you can do, put into action. I came across this video the other day, and I genuinely think it's changing my life. Not to be very dramatic, but it is, because I actually want it to. And I've put it everywhere. I've put it in my vision board, on my notes app. I've written it down verbatim, like the transcript from this video. That is how ingrained I want it into my brain. And I think about this video a lot. I'm actively trying to make it my Roman Empire. But I came across this video, and I'll link it down below. And I know the title of it is going to sound kind of weird, but it's basically be skinny, like how to be skinny, something like that. It's not physically skinny. That's not really the gist of it. The gist of it is essentially remembering that your self-worth, your worth, is already given to you. It is a fact. Being human equals having worth. Period. Point blank. You don't have to do anything. Just your existence proves that you have value, you have worth. So that's the baseline, that's the foundation. And then from there, anything that you do to express yourself, whether it is how you spend your money, what you eat, how you dress, what you do for work, how you spend your time, all of those things, how you physically present yourself, weight-wise, fitness-wise, makeup-wise, whatever it is, all of that is external and an expression of your worth, of what you want to show to the world. And so if you start off with value, from there, whatever you do to express yourself is very detached from you. It is what you are choosing to show to the world, to be like, this is how I am. This is who I am. This is how I choose to express myself. And they're not dependent on each other. So if your external self is not doing well for some reason, if you're expressing yourself in a certain way that you don't like for some reason, it doesn't diminish your worth because they are not linked, they are not tied. And so from there, don't self-sabotage yourself. Let yourself fully express yourself. Literally, there is no limit anymore, because now you're just choosing to express yourself in what way. You get to choose what kind of car you have. You get to choose what kind of life you want to live, because you already have the worth and the value. It's an act of giving and not so much like digging at yourself and seeing, do I have the worth? Do I have the value in the first place to deserve something like this? No, it's not coming from a place of lack. It's coming from a place of expressing. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But this mixed with my list, I feel like that is the sweet spot. I think that is really what has been my North Star in the winter. I feel like I have a really healthy mindset now where I feel very neutral about a lot of things, where when shit hits the fan or things are literally amazing and I'm feeling on top of the world, either way, I'm not letting myself fully lose control, get swept away by all these emotions and extremes, and not feel grounded. I feel very grounded at the core, knowing the fact that baseline, I have value, things are going to be fine. I'm worthwhile just being here and existing, and everything else is up to me and the world. I don't know, I think something about it is really fun. It's just kind of very hopeful, but not in a really annoyingly optimistic way where you're trying to be happy, like everything's romantic, it's perfect, life is fine. Like if you're just happy, if you just see the good in everything, everything's gonna be fine. And if you don't see the good in everything, something's wrong with you. Like it's too much. I'm sorry if I can't be super happy-go-lucky all the time. I also kind of find that a little bit annoying and also a little bit concerning, and it makes me kind of concerned for the person who's like that, because I'm like, are you good? What are you trying to cover up? Why aren't you able to acknowledge that, sometimes life is a little sucky? Anyways, I just sound like a shitty person in this video. I'm coming at everyone's neck. Acknowledge that sometimes the demons win, but that's okay. And sometimes you forget the basics, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, as long as you're still trying, and as long as you still see the value in wanting to be here, it's gonna be fine. As I was saying earlier when I was going through this list, I think there's just been a huge difference. If you guys have been here with me when I was posting videos since I was high school, talking about really just deep, obscure things, you guys will know I saw life very differently. I have videos where I'm like, just be happy. There's no such thing as depression. And then I had depression. And then I was like, oh my God, this is really real. This is like a whole other game. This is not funny. And then trying to get out of it and failing several times. And I'm probably still going to keep failing even with this mentality that I have here, because eventually maybe it's not going to work out because I get used to it. And once I get used to it, I need to find something else to get me out of certain situations. But I'm speaking from experience when I say that these things worked out. When I didn't do these things, my life looked very different. And I will specifically point out the first one because I think this one has been just eye-opening recently. But call somebody when it really sucks. And this just happened to me. Honestly, this should be a buffalo in my high-low buffalo. But this is not, because it's way bigger and way more important. So it's a huge part of this episode. When I was in college, early college, I did a good job of calling my parents all the time. They were my rock. I needed them to help me to get through really tough situations and just mental breakdowns. When I just wanted to quit college, when I was really just losing faith in all of it and just extremely stressed, I would call them and they would get me out of it. Even if it took 2-3 hours, if it took me 48 hours for me to cry and call them over and over, they helped me get through it. And I genuinely think that's why I was able to survive for so long. Then I got to a point where I stopped talking to people, stopped calling my parents, stopped telling my boyfriend at the time what was wrong, because two things. One is convincing myself that I was a burden, that I was causing a lot of trauma by trauma dumping on my parents that they couldn't handle it, that they didn't want to, and they were getting annoyed. I convinced myself that. And also, my boyfriend at the time, he wasn't very good at taking in my trauma. Instead of like realizing I only needed someone to listen to me and I just needed a hand to hold, he was feeding me with advice. Like he was just berating me with like things I needed to do to fix my situation instead of actually listening to me. And so I felt like something was wrong with me. And so I stopped telling everybody what my problems were whenever I had really bad mental breakdowns. And I think because of that, I spiraled into depression. And this is like so extreme, but it's real. I genuinely felt like I was not going to be able to get out of it. I felt like I had to take care of all of it. I had to take care fully of myself and the weight of all the problems and the world at the time. And yeah, it was really hard for me to get out of. It wasn't until recently that I kind of got back into telling people more of what's been going on. And so the other day, like 2 weeks ago, trigger warning, I spiraled back into a binge eating dip, and I had a really, really bad few days. It was really terrible. And it was bad enough that I spiraled deep enough to binge eat again. And I had an episode. And I haven't had an episode in a really long time. And obviously every time that happens, I'm in a mess. I'm in shambles. And I was just really tired of it. And this time I decided to call my mom and literally just tell her what the hell has been happening to me since I was in junior year of college. The first thing I did, I called her. I was like, "Hi, Mom. I just need to ask you something." Like, this is straight up how it went. I was like, "Hi, Mom. I need to ask you something. Can I ask you something?" And then she was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And I was like, "I was just wondering, how do you handle your stress? I feel like you do a really good job of it. So what do you do to handle your stress?" And she was like, "I call somebody. I have 3-4 people. Like, that's why I'm always on the phone. I just tell them my problems and they listen to me and it makes me feel so much better. I just need to tell somebody what's going on." And I was like, "But don't you feel bad? What if somebody doesn't want to hear you?" And then she was like, "Then I'll call somebody else." And then I'm like, "But what if it's too much?" And then she was like, "Annie, at the end of the day, you have people in your life that just want you to be okay, and we can take care of it. We can handle it. If we can't handle it, we'll tell you." And then I was like, okay. I was like, "Mom, don't think I'm crazy, but," oh God, this is making me emotional. I was like, "Mom, don't think I'm crazy, but like, the way that I handle my stress is I eat really funny." That's the way that I explained it, because she's never heard of an eating disorder. Like, even when I had an eating disorder, I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, "What do you mean I have problems eating? Like, what do you mean I can't just eat like every normal person? And what do you mean it takes me 24 hours to just think and debate about one meal I'm going to have? And then even then I feel guilty after I eat, and I think about food more than I think about literally anything and anyone in my life. Like, what do you mean?" And I told her all these things. I really got in the details. I was like, "Mom, it's bad. You don't understand. Like, I did this, I did that, and I hit such low lows." And she was just shocked. She was like, "Annie, you've been going through this for so many years and I didn't even know. Dad didn't even know. Like, how could you have hidden this from us this whole time?" And I was like, "Because I'm ashamed. I'm like embarrassed. Guys, I'm filming this podcast. I'm giving you unsolicited advice, and I'm trying to like tell you guys how to live your lives, basically. And I have a full-time job. I manage people sometimes. I tattoo people. I have clients. But the reality of what it looks like when I go through a binge eating episode, the whole nature of it is just very humbling. It really brings people down to their knees and at mercy to something as simple and random as food. It's literally an addiction. It's not a pretty thing to say that you have. If you've been there, you know. And you just become very vulnerable. And so, yes, I'm very embarrassed to say that I go through these things. I'm embarrassed in the moments when I have these episodes. And so, no, I don't want to tell people about it. I don't want it to be something associated with me. But my mom literally was like, why are you ashamed? I am not embarrassed by you. Like, I actually don't feel any different about you. If anything, I'm scared. I'm worried for you. This part, I was literally like losing it. I was losing my mind. And then she was like, come on, Annie. Like, you're my only daughter. Like, come on. Don't do this to me. I was like, what do you want me to say to that? Guys, what do you say to that? What do you say to that when your mom says that? Yeah, and I spoke it. I spoke it out there, and I told my dad a week after, and they handled it very differently. But honestly, it has made me feel very seen, quote unquote seen, whatever. I just feel very accepted as I am. Like, all the dirty, messy, ugly, not cute parts of myself, I think that's really changed the game now. Everyone deserves to have people in their life that can do that and be that person or those people for them. I hope you guys can find someone like that. And if you don't, message me, guys. Like, DM me and send me your rant. Like, voice memo me. Honestly, trauma dump on me, because I would love to be that person for you. Honestly, trauma dumping is the best way to like bond. Just letting you guys know, like, life hacks, life advice. If you want to be like true homies, like BFFs right away with someone, like straight up trauma dump with them. So fun. You guys will get super close like this so fast. Let's get into the high-low buffalo. If you're new here, it's the good thing, the bad thing, the weird thing that happened last week. These are super fun. Stick around for this, because this one's a really, really good high-low buffalo. And if you guys have your own, always send me yours. I love them. They're so fun to react to. And if you guys read any other comments with high-low buffaloes, you guys should totally react to them too, because it's so fun. Anyways, so starting with the high, I was a farmer for a weekend. I truly have another personality that has always wanted to be a farmer, even though I'm a city girl right now. I would love to have my own chickens and cows and pigs and goats. And I got to live that for a weekend. And it was genuinely healing. I booked an Airbnb with my friends. I am so glad they were down. I was like, I really want to go to this farm. And it was in the buttfuck middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And I texted my friends and I was like, guys, you want to go to this farm and just chill for a weekend and just feed animals and hang out in a cabin? And they're like, yes. My favorite animals, which I was super surprised about, was the mini horse and the alpaca. And the funniest thing is that when I got there, this is so city girl, and because we're just so not exposed to nature anymore, that like this makes a lot of sense. But I fully thought the alpacas were llamas. And I just know that the farmers, the actual farmers that live on the farm, they are probably listening to me and they're like, this idiot, like, she keeps calling the alpacas llamas. And I was just like walking around and I'd be like, oh my God, I love the llama. They're so cute. No, bro, they're fucking alpacas. Like, and the whole time I was calling them the wrong thing. But this is the difference between a llama and alpaca. And they do look kind of similar, but they're really not that similar. And so I was straight up just yelling like llama the entire time, but it was really an alpaca. Anyways, this is Ezra and this is Pedro. These are the two alpacas. The next is the low. And if you guys are subscribed to me, this is not promoting, but seriously, if you guys subscribe to me, you'll see that I put on the community post, I posted that I got food poisoning. Guys, I literally swear to God, I almost saw Jesus. Like, I was in my bed and I was like, I am dying. I'm gonna die right now. I threw up on a Thursday night from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. No, it was not norovirus. I threw up everything and more. I didn't even know I could throw up so much. And I was sick for an entire week because of it. But it all started on Sunday, because Sunday, the weekend of Valentine's Day, my roommates and I, we had a little galentine's situation where we baked a lemon olive oil cake, and it was delicious. And because it was delicious, of course I had to have 4 slices. In the span of 24 hours, I had 4 slices. If you guys have ever made an olive oil cake, you'll know that to make one, maybe 6-8 inch cake is around 12 to 16 ounces of olive oil. Like, it's a shit ton of olive oil. And I had 4 slices. So I would say about a third of the cake. These are like very generous slices, okay? And so a third of, it's like 4 ounces. That is a lot. 4, 5, 6 ounces of olive oil is how much I had. If you have that much olive oil, it's actually really bad for your stomach. Like, olive oil is good for you generally. It's a healthy fat. But if you have too much, I had a little bit too much olive oil. Woke up Monday morning with gastritis. Self-diagnosed, but I was completely right because I confirmed it with the doctor. I had gastritis. My whole left side was burning in pain. Gastritis is a stomach infection. I've always had stomach issues, so it made a lot of sense why my left side was burning, and olive oil will do it for you. And then that was Monday. Then Tuesday, I went to go out to eat with my friends. We had food. It was great. Blah, blah, blah. Fine. Wednesday comes around. Decided to eat my store-bought sashimi grade tuna. Okay, I'm gonna hold my camera right now. My camera was saying it was too hot, but when I held it, it didn't say that anymore. So I feel like I'm just gonna finish this video while holding my camera, which is so offensive. It means I'm not hot, guys. That was such a bad joke. I'm sorry. I just had to think about how I just said that, and I thought it was okay to say. Anyways, Wednesday, sashimi grade tuna, the whole day I had that. I didn't really defrost it right because I remember cutting it and it was kind of semi-frozen. So I think that could have been part of it. But it was still sashimi grade. And that is the one thing I like threw up completely. Like all of this tuna, it was like chunks of tuna. Sorry if this is really vivid and graphic and disgusting. But yeah, I threw up chunks of tuna the whole night. All of it came out. But then on Thursday morning after I threw up, I checked my texts and I saw texts from my friends because I don't really check my Instagram messages that much. Guys, I just did this whole part and I didn't even record. Okay, I need patience. I need a deep breath. Yeah, I saw my texts from my friends and they're like, yeah, we were throwing up and we had diarrhea, and I don't really check my DMs. So I was like, oh my gosh, we got food poisoning from that meal. But I don't know whether or not it was that meal for me in particular, because I didn't get any symptoms of like throwing up and all that stuff until 24 hours. Like for me, it happened right after the sashimi tuna, not the night of the dinner with my friends, but we think it is food poisoning because one of our friends didn't have one of the dishes, this chicken dish, and she's the only one that didn't get food poisoning, so it has to be that dish from this one restaurant in New York. But my stomach was just getting wrecked for a whole week. It was just not fun, from the olive oil gastritis to the meal with food poisoning to the raw tuna that I decided to have for a whole entire freaking day. But I got to eat this thing called a brat diet. If you guys saw on my Instagram, I got to eat something called a brat diet, and it's something that you have to go on when you have food poisoning. It's banana, rice, applesauce, and toast. These are things that are just generally flavorless and easy for your stomach to digest so that you don't just throw up constantly. And you also have to drink Gatorade so that you can keep electrolytes in instead of losing them all when you're throwing up, peeing, whatever, like extracting all that stuff from your body. And so honestly, a lot of you guys might hear that and be like, oh, that sucks. But I had such a good time eating that because applesauce is so underrated, guys. I haven't had applesauce in so long. And then for Gatorade, oh my God, I remember the day I had to like leave my apartment because after throwing up, I was like, I need to know what's going on. I got to go to the doctor. And so I left my apartment and I was like, I need to get Gatorade because I know I need electrolytes. And so I was in this bodega in the deli and I was looking for my Gatorade, but I was like ready to pass out. I was like, I'm going to black out in any moment. But I was like, oh my God, I am so excited to choose what color of Gatorade I'm going to get because I haven't had Gatorade in so long. And I was like, what color should I get? But I was like, I'm going to black out. I ended up getting the blue one, which I love. I love the blue, the light blue, the white one, and the yellow one. I do like the red one, but I'm not with the whole red 40 dye shit. But also the blue one probably has even more shit in it because blue is just a really obscure color. But I was so excited. I loved the Gatorade. It was so fun to drink. Just haven't had it in a long time. And like I said, the applesauce. So I actually really like the brat diet. And I just like weaned off of it starting like Wednesday. And so it's only been really like 2 days now since I've started to eat more normal foods. But even then, my stomach is not taking it the same way it used to. It is not the same as it was before the past 2 weeks. And yeah, if you guys know, you know a little bit about it because my community post and my Instagram story. And next is my buffalo, which, guys, this is a crazy buffalo. Like, this is such a good buffalo. I can't believe it happened to me. But essentially, I was getting facial the other day, and I have my girl. She has done a facial for me 2 or 3 times by now, and she's so good. This time around, I was like getting my facial, and I asked her, for some reason I've never asked her this before, I asked her where her family's from, and she's like, oh, like, how come you've never asked me? And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, I'm Cambodian. And I was like, what? You're Cambodian? And I was like, I'm Cambodian. And she was like, what? Like, I can't believe you never asked. Yeah, that's so crazy. I don't know Cambodian people here. And it was very rare to find Cambodian people, period. And she was like, do you know how to speak Khmer? Khmer is the Cambodian language. And I was like, just a little bit. I was asking her, I was like, where do you get Cambodian food? Like, do you eat Cambodian food in the city? And she was like, there's nowhere to get it. There's legit nowhere. And I knew that. There's nowhere to get it. And it's crazy because a lot of people like to say, like, you can get any food in New York. But no, you cannot get Cambodian food in New York. I've tried to find it. There is no Cambodian food in New York. And I was like, asking her, I was like, how do you eat it then? She's like, I make it, or I go to my friend's house who make it. And I was like, dang, I'm so jealous. And I was like, because I always miss like salak go, salamaju, and these are like, it's like a fish soup, a vegetable curry soup dish. And I'm like, my grandma always makes it, but I have to always wait to get home to eat it because it's just a little bit complicated to make. But then, guys, I'm going to her wedding. Basically, she invited me to her wedding somehow, some way. She was like, oh my God, you should come to my wedding. And I was like, wait, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, like, here, take the invitation. Guys, look at this. Like, this is so legit. Look at this freaking invitation I got. I'm going to ASMR, like, tap this because I need to show you guys how legit. Like, this is sparkly. It has, like, this embroidered thing. You kind of can't see it. It's so sparkly. And it sounds like this. Like, come on. So I'm going to her wedding and she's like, yeah, bring a +1, dress up super cute, like wear makeup and have so much fun. Like, I won't be able to, you know, be with you the whole night because I have to be with a bunch of different guests, but I'll dance with you and make sure you don't just stare at the roasted pig, like eat the pig and like make sure you eat well and eat until you're full. There's going to be 350 people. I have 3 dresses. It's going to be so fun. Like, we'll dance together, all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, guys, I'm just going to my facialist's wedding. I just got invited to her wedding and I've only met her like 2 or 3 times as a client. And now I have a phone number and now I'm going to her wedding and I'm so excited. I have no idea how that happened. It made me so like excited and just made my heart feel so full because a little bit of home, a little bit of like my culture here in New York. So that was my buffalo. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As you can clearly tell, I'm really passionate about whatever I've been talking about this whole episode. I hope you guys can leave some comments down below of your ideas of ways to make life less sucky. If you guys haven't seen my last video about journaling, it's about something I'm also so passionate about for some reason. I journal like my life depends on it. I journal like I get paid to do it. If you want to know more about it, or if you hate doing it and want to get into it or don't know how to get started, that video is definitely for you. You can check it out somewhere here. And thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are literally the best people ever. Thank you for being here. Bye.